What's up, crew? Welcome to Filming in Progress, the show that takes you backstage into the world of local businesses and the people who make them shine. Joining us today are Richelle and Rose, co-founders of R&R Premier Events, Wild Rose Women's Events, and Tri It Multisport. They empower communities through sport and wellness. Together, they inspire strength, connection, and joy. Richelle and Rose, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
This is great.
Yeah. Where are we?
We're at Shed Point. Go ahead.
We're at Shed Point. Stoked Oats is a company that Richelle and I invested in about 11 years ago with some friends, and I currently work with them. I run their field marketing and all their events and all their ambassadors, and so we're here in their Zoom room.
It works perfectly. It's already set up for podcasting. We love it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I'm happy that you're here.
Awesome. Thank you. Tell me how the two of you first fell in love with outdoor events, outdoor activities, etc.
I think I've always sort of been involved with different athletics, grew up doing all sorts of different athletics, pursued an ecotourism and outdoor leadership degree in university. And then after that, sort of in university, everybody moves away and all of a sudden your whole friend base goes to the wayside. And so I literally saw a poster for triathlon at a pool that I was working at and took up triathlon and started running more seriously, took up mountain biking at that time too, started competing and just have sort of done all those activities ever since.
Yeah, for me, I come mostly business. I've owned and operated my own businesses since I was 21 years old and started to get into like the endurance end of it. Not like Richelle, who's done sports forever and ever and ever and really talented and stuff. I came at it much later in life and just started running marathons and doing endurance sports and things totally out of my wheelhouse, totally out of my comfort zone. And just found that I really loved it. I just really loved it. So thought it was a good way to turn it into a business and introduce other people to all the value that it's added to my life.
And so how did the two of you meet?
We actually met in the lineup.
And let's be really clear. We have two very different versions of how we met, but
let's hear them both.
No, let's take hers.
No, I was just so excited. We met in line and she was just one of the most dynamic, incredible women I had ever met. And I was so nervous and she was just so full of energy and it was just so excited. I was so excited to meet this energetic woman and saw her the next day. And then we just kept seeing each other at triathlons over the years and formed a friendship, and eventually she convinced me to come work with her.
Amazing. And your version?
Oh gosh, I just thought she was, I believe it was our first race. I mean, I think it was
both our very first triathlons.
Yeah, and both very nervous. I couldn't swim at all, and good news was the pool was 3 feet deep, so I could stand up. And I barely made it through the race, but I remembered her, and I thought she was pretty dynamic. And at that time, she was working at a running store, and I just was like, wow. I had this vision of how I wanted the store to grow and all of these things, and I approached her and harassed her and convinced her to come.
Bought me lots of coffees,
yeah,
and I was like, this woman just keeps buying me coffee. She's so nice every time I see her.
And I was like, you should come work with me. You should come work with me. And eventually she did, and yeah, that's how it all we never looked back.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So you met each other, you had this idea for a business. What were I heard you say that you wanted to get new people into the sports and those sort of things. What were the kind of the founding values of the business at the beginning?
Rose truly founded Tri It, so I'll let her take that one.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have that big of a clear vision other than my own personal experiences. I really struggled finding a community as a woman in triathlon, running, all of those things, because it was predominantly men. And so I would go, there was one store here in town, and I remember going in and just feeling very unwelcome, very like, this was an elitist sport. And, I was a mom of 3 kids and no athletic real background except for running. And they did not make me feel welcome. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I never want anyone to feel like this. So that is really how it all came about. And, we do tell this story of I ordered a triathlon bra. It was, it dries really quick or whatever, different than a running bra, but different than a swimsuit, somewhere in between. And I ordered it from one of the first triathlon companies that there was, and they started in Hawaii. And I think it was like a $36 US bra, and I paid like $38 for shipping. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like this is going to be a barrier for so many people getting into this sport. And so, yeah, and then, Richelle she had such a connection. Like she's so passionate about women and introducing them. And it just kind of like snowballed into this. And we were like, because our vision at first was like, everybody needs to do an Ironman. Everybody should do endurance sport, because this is kind of the thing we'd been, sold as.
Drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And so
everybody needs to do this.
And we
Your
did
life will be better.
And then we realized that, like a lot of people get into this sport, they can't financially afford it. They sacrifice time with their family. They get injured. It's such an all-encompassing thing, and it was actually quite elitist. Like it was these are the people who do it.
Yeah.
And so we just started, introducing it and making it more accessible. And we were like, okay, what are the barriers for people, and how do we keep this a balanced, enhanced part of their life? So then we just started introducing more things that made it more accessible and more welcoming. I don't know if you've heard of Spa Lady, but back in the 80s, that was kind of their premise, like was to create like a nice safe space for these women where they could, because they would not normally go to a Gold's Gym or an MMP or, any of these big facilities, because they didn't feel like they belong. They weren't maybe always welcomed in those environments, and it could have been their own thing, or maybe it really was projected that way. But yeah, and then
even the clothing we found, when I'm in an extra large, like how is this supposed to fit everybody else? And so we really started sourcing out brands that matched, all bodies, and being all inclusive, and not this like Iron Man who, sort of sacrificed everything. So it was interesting over the years. We would have women bawling in change rooms. It can be a hard sport, and you're all of a sudden you're wearing spandex and bathing suits and things like that. So we just started the Wild Rose then from working with our retail store, because we wanted all women, if they had to, wear this clothing, that they would see other women like them wearing this clothing, and I'd be like, oh, it's okay. But
and to recognize nobody is paying attention to you.
No.
They're worried about themselves at these races. They don't care what you look like in your swimsuit or not.
Yeah.
And she's correct. I mean, there was many times we'd be like, come out, show us your swimsuit. Like, let's see if it, and they're like, I'm not coming out. Like, there's just no way. And that was like a huge thing. Or I remember a friend of mine had lost maybe 100 pounds. And this was quite typical. Like women would lose a lot of weight after having babies. Or I remember one lady having breast cancer and having her breast, like things, all these things that, you just were so conscious of. And I remember her standing in there going, it's touching. This is so weird. Like everything's touching. Yes. And so it just was like such a wake up call, because I'd never gone through those kinds of insecurities and things like physically and stuff. My mom was very, very big into you are who you are, and your beauty is much more than this and that. And so, but I couldn't believe how much women are so affected. And that was a huge barrier. So they walk in that store and you just make them feel like they are capable of anything. Right. Yeah.
And that's truly how the events started, is, creating that safe space where they felt safe to do that event, and they were surrounded by other women, and, growing that not just from triathlon. We started with triathlon, and we actually started Wild Rose Women's event thinking that this would be the stepping stone, and then it was like they were going to go do Ironman. And what we've realized over the years is women just want to be around other women and have these amazing experiences. And so we've started to do other sports, walks, runs, cycling events, where they're not feeling, because the reality is they are intimidated, and to have that special space that's just for them, and doing things like getting special necklaces and that they can wear and doesn't just go on their metal hanger is are the little details that and good food afterwards is always, sort of one of our things, chocolate fondues. And we wanted it to be, you know, I remember finishing a marathon and my husband at the time handing me my, 1-year-old and just like, oh my gosh, like we even at the finish line are like, Kate, no kids in the finish line area. You can celebrate, and then mom gets to go sit by herself, have her food, enjoy her day. And we just really want to create those special experiences for women where it gets to be all about them, because we know it doesn't always get to be all about them.
Amazing. So you identified this opportunity and you took it multiple ways through the events and the retail and that sort of thing. What were some of the, obviously, we talked about how you identified the insecurities maybe going into these things. What were some of the other things that you realized just via listening to your customers and the people that you were working with that you had to, embrace and change for them to feel comfortable in these scenarios?
Well, I mean, as you're getting into running now, and it seems like it's a very reasonably priced sport. If you think running's expensive, triathlon's insanely expensive. I remember my first Ironman, somebody saying to me, oh, minimum it's going to cost you is $15,000. And I was like, there's no way. I'm doing everything bare minimum. I have an $800 bike. And then you're like, oh, it's $1,600 to sign up for an Ironman, and it's a coach, and you have to do other races, and you need the equipment, and you need the training and the nutrition. And sure enough, I added it all up, and boom, my first year it was that much. So financial barrier, right? And we're really big into this should not be something, it shouldn't be just for people who have, a financial, comfortable financially, and other people that it's aware for them. So making like, okay, so a sprint, yeah, we have to make it lucrative for us, and it's a business, right? But it also has to be like something that it's more attainable for more people, right? Yeah. So you can afford, a $65 entry, and, maybe you pick and choose, but same with the equipment. We're very big into like, don't buy a new bike, borrow a bike. Yeah. Right? You don't need to have a fancy tri-suit, which is so weird for a triathlon store.
I think our whole mission, when Rose brought me on, it was truly about helping people. And that's been our driving force when it always comes down to is like, how are we helping this person? And if we're telling them they need to buy something that then puts them in a bad position, that's not helping them. Yes, we want to make their lives easier. We want to help them, but with the equipment that they have, or just the sort of almost truly the bare minimum, so that they can compete in the sport without putting them into a bad position. And no, you don't need a $10,000 bike. You can buy a $1,000 bike, or there's ranges that you can have there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, accessibility comes from not only the inclusion aspect of who can do it, but also the accessibility of financially who can do it, right? So that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we really focused on, and because we saw this very early on, when we opened the store and started putting on events, these people had like a lifespan of like 3 years. Yeah. They would spend all this money, they would train like crazy, they'd get injured, and then they would leave the sport for good. So there wasn't a great retention rate when it came to the sport. There just wasn't. And so how do we create that where it becomes part of their lifestyle for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, where you're still doing it at 70? Because those trickle effects into the rest of your life are a big thing, right? Like you're influencing your kids and your grandkids and your husband, and you're making your lifespan longer, and your confidence and your mental health and all of these things that come from, it's not just about the race. Right. It's about all those things. And
creating that balance, right? That balance. And that was like Rose alluded to, that was our big shift is, this was like, the Ironman personality almost was sort of everything and all encompassing, but it's not sustainable. And so really coming back to that more balanced approach. And what we're finding is, like I said, we started this thinking it was going to be a stepping stone, especially the women's triathlon. What we're finding is we have a lot of these women who've gone and done and competed Ironman and are coming back to this because they're like, I can do a triathlon, I can still be involved, I can be done by 11 a.m. and then go spend the afternoon with my family. It doesn't have to be this all-encompassing activity. And that's whether you take running or cycling or what have you. And we're big encouraging of, bringing the family to the the finish line, and we're really working to start to create more of that festival atmosphere at the finish line for the whole family.
Big celebration aspect to the end. Yeah, I love it.
Well, one of the things that happens in a lot of our events is that, and we've been talking about this quite a bit lately, is that women will come to our indoor triathlon, or they'll come to our bike, Grand Fondo, or, even to one of our yoga runs or whatever it is. And they'll come to volunteer to check it out, to see what type of people, is this really something? And they see themselves in these other women, and they're just like, okay, this is completely doable. It's not like you're showing up at a race where you're like, okay, I could never do that, right? It's like they're looking in the mirror and they're going, wow, this is me. These people are me. I can do this. She has 5 children. She's 65. She's a woman who, has never just learned to swim. I can do all these things. And I think that's the key. So a lot of the times when Richelle will be like, you should sign up for one of our events. And they're like, no, I couldn't. And she'd be like, why don't you come and volunteer? See what it looks like. And then they're just like, signed up the next day.
Yeah, they're interested. I love that. Do you find that a lot of the, over the years that you've been doing this, that you find there's an education piece to it, or maybe, talking people through the mindset of just like getting there and experiencing it to see if it's for them?
Absolutely. And we try to run, various clinics. And for years we tried to run our own swim clinics and bike clinics. And we're now working with like local coaches to help these women. If they can't swim, here's a great coach who can help you learn to swim. If you aren't comfortable on the bike, here's a coach that can run through some bike skills with you. We do new to triathlon talks where we talk about the biggest, I always say I answer sort of like 4 or 5 questions when we're doing these talks. One is like, what the heck to wear? And I always cover that first because that's like the burning question in people's minds. They're like, and then like, how do I do a transition? Like, how do I get from the swim to the bike to the run? Like, it seems, especially since I'm soaking wet and in a bathing suit, what do I eat during all of this? Because that can be very confusing because this triathlon's a little bit longer than maybe if they've only ever done a 5K to now add the swim, the bike, and the 5K at the end. And then how the heck do I train for this? I've had people come to the clinic where they're like, I'm doing like a triathlon every day and I'm like, no, you don't have to train that much. So we even often say that training for a triathlon is easier than to run train because you're not having that pounding on your body all the time. So those are typically the 4 main questions that I cover in these clinics, and that usually puts people at ease to, okay, I can do this. Let's get signed up.
Yeah, I would imagine that breaks down the barrier a little bit, right? It makes it, again, we've been talking about accessibility and just like comfort, I suppose, is really key, just joining, right? So that makes sense. Tell me about the store and how that kind of all intertwines itself here.
Gosh, I just, after I ordered that bra, I was like, this is crazy. This should be accessible. So I called the owner of Zoot, who became a good friend, and he has since sold it since way back when. And I just said hey, I really want to open up a triathlon store. I have 0 experience. I've owned restaurants and bars since I was 21 years old. This is all new to me. I actually don't know a lot about triathlon. But I do know that I think that this has added so much value to my life, and I love the community, and I want everybody to feel this way. So let me open up a store and go this way. And so I called him, and he's like, we don't ship to Canada. And I was like, well, what if I fly down to California and I pick it all up? And he's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And so I went on, I ordered, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything about merchandising. I didn't know anything about ordering or inventory or how much to have, but I know what I like.
Yes,
so that was good. And
you have good style.
Yeah, I do. So I think so anyways. And he ended up shipping it to my house. I remember coming home that first shipment, and I contacted another triathlon company out of Australia, and boxes and boxes on my front step. And that's really how it all started. And I had a coach at the time. His name is Corey Fagan. He was out of SAIT, and he did VO2 testing and triathlons and Ironman training and stuff. And he still has his business, TCR. He does like VO2 testing. He does
bike fits.
Yeah, it's been around a long time. He's actually down the way from me. So when we opened the store, he was looking to leave State. And I said, hey, there's a spot next to me down here on Memorial Drive. You should open up down here. So he did, but he was running CompuTrainer bike classes. So I cleared out every day, like twice a day, and he would set up like 15 bikes in the store and run these CompuTrainer classes and then tear it all down. And so it wasn't a great model, but it really kind of got us entrenched into the community right off the hop, hey? Yeah, and then I didn't expect to be received so well, but I mean, we're the only female-owned and operated Tri store in North America that we know of, you know, because a lot have gone by the wayside even before COVID. You know, it's as I'm sure when you talk to all your businesses and such, retail is tough, really, really tough, and harder now than it's ever been. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a common thread. What were some of the tactics or things that you put in place to ensure that you were kind of, not at the front of business and not forgotten, and ensure that you're the first store that people think of when they're thinking triathlon?
A lot of going to different events. Every triathlon that someone put on, we were there. Every single weekend, making sure that we were, even if we didn't have a booth, that we were there supporting, that we were, we're the wetsuit experts. And so we would just go down and we'd contact the race director and say, can we just help people get into their wetsuits in the morning? So making sure that at every event we were there, that we were always cheering, that we were taking pictures of people, posting them online so that they had, because it's hard to get a picture of yourself when you're racing. And that's a big deal for people to say, look what I did. So we were the ones that were there making sure we took these pictures and that we posted them for people. Oh, there's one of our customers. Let's make sure we get a picture of them and that we share it to social media, or to, back then it was sort of only Facebook. So those were things that we just constantly did. And then like talks, seminars, clinics, really being that education piece, not just the store that sold things, but again, back to that helping people, because a lot of people didn't know where to get started or how to get started. And we realized very early on that it was our job to educate people to help eliminate that barrier. So I think that's how we became the go-to, and people would come in and we prided ourselves when people came in. What should my nutrition plan be? What should I wear? What should I do? How should I pay? Like those types of things. And don't get me wrong, we still pushed all the coaches, and that's always been our model, is making sure that the coaches in our community are reaching these athletes, but at the store level that we were there answering any question that they could. And if we didn't know the answer, we would figure it out.
I remember a really pivotal moment for me was I went to Kona for Ironman Hawaii. And I think it was our third year we were open, and Peter Reid was like such a decorated Canadian Ironman winning champion. I think he'd won it like 3 times. His ex-wife had won it twice. And I remember coming out, he literally came up to me and he's like, Rose, you're the girl that owns Tri It Multisport. And I thought, I have made it. Peter Reid knows about our store.
Rose,
so I was like, that, if nothing else, no one else knows who I am, then I have hit my pinnacle.
She's made it.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds like caring about the customer and the community in general has kind of been pivotal to your success. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and who we partner with for sure. We've been very fortunate. Maylot Homes has been involved with a lot of our women's races from the very beginning. They've believed in our vision, they've supported it in so many different ways that you can't even imagine, and asked for nothing in return other than we continue to have this mandate of making it so that women are able to do the sport. And it's rare that you get a sponsor, but a non-endemic sponsor, because I mean, we've had other ventures and other things, and it's so challenging. People are always asking, like, how do you get sponsors? we build these relationships. They take a long, long time. You have to be very clear on what you're sharing the same values, all of those things. And so we do donate to women's charities all the time. It's amazing to me, like the way that our volunteer system works. People have such a hard time getting volunteers. And we have the same women over and over, and men, coming and supporting. And they get so much out of seeing these women like accomplish these goals they never thought they would be able to.
Yeah, definitely. You hear a lot of people ask, how do you go about these partnerships and how do you get these clients and that sort of thing? And I think ultimately, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just doing the right thing. It's actually caring about the relationship. It's taking care of that person, making sure that there's alignment in values, et cetera.
I would 100% agree. And finding those people that, like Rose said, really have the same, vision and values as you do, and committing to them. We've seen a lot of other, people where they're constantly changing sponsors. We go into it like, look, we're looking for this long term and we're going to work to make it mutually beneficial. And we want to work with you and we want to build this relationship, because if someone's in it for a year and then gone, people won't remember that sponsor. But if like someone like Maylot, who's been our title sponsor for how many years now? I can't even, like,
long time,
8 years or something. They know Maylot, and it's now even ingrained into our logo, a part of our logo. So that we've shown that recognition to them, and we've built that so that they are a part of our company, and getting them involved too. We don't just want them to say, oh, look, I'm a sponsor. They actually come out to our events, and some of the women will do our events. The owner or president will get on the microphone, and that's how we really want to partner, is more than just that logo on our website. We want them to be a part of our community.
Yeah, and if I would give some advice to anyone who has a small business that is looking to, because it is hard. Yeah. I have athletes come all the time for Stoked Oats and for all these things, and our budget is limited and it's small. So I'm on the other end of that, where if I could, I'd sponsor all these amazing athletes and all these different companies and events and ventures and things like that. But you really just start small and, under promise, over deliver. Make sure that whatever you've said you're going to do, you follow through, and give them more than they've asked for. Because it's really hard to measure that kind of partnership. Like, are they looking for sales? Like, I don't know, have we sold $10 million in homes for Maylot or EFW or things like that? They need to see when they come to these events, like, these are the target people and we're making an impact. And that's a lot of these big companies are very philanthropic, in the sense, like, they don't want to give $2,000 and, here's your tax receipt kind of thing. They want to see, like, firsthand on the front lines, this woman made it to the start line. She just got over cancer. We have women who are breastfeeding at the finish line, and they're like, wow, that mom has a 6-month-old and she just, look at her. Like, never would have envisioned being able to do that. Or little young girls who, have that moment. And it's had such a profound impact on both of us in so many ways. And I want everyone to feel that.
Yeah. I think it fills our bucket as much, and the excitement of getting to work on this. And, we talked to someone the other day and it was like, no 2 days are the same. You're constantly doing different things. You're talking to different people, getting calls, getting emails. Hey, I saw your website, I'm thinking about this. Do you think this is something I could do? And, getting to have those conversations with those people is pretty incredible. And whether we're in the office updating websites or what have you, doing marketing, or event day, or the week leading up to event day, where it's just you're collecting equipment and driving U-Hauls and, all those types of things. And then on event day, where you're setting these things up and then everybody goes. That's usually when I have my moment, a little teary moment, is like once the first heat of women or the gun goes off and they all go, and you're like, look what we just did. Okay, we've got 100 women who, have never done an event. We did a new walk run this past summer at Boness, and I said at the beginning of the event, if you guys just see a show of hands, we had about 100 women. How many women have this, like how many of you this is your first ever race that you've ever done? And I think 75% of the people had put up their hands, and we were just, oh my gosh, like this is incredible that they have never done something like this. And yet we had a UFC dyno cross-country runner come out, and she said this was probably one of her favorite events. It was an out and back, and she got to see all the faces of these women as she ran back. And she said it was so empowering and so motivating to see an event like that.
It's an experience, right? You're designing an experience even from the store to the events and everything between. And I think that's what people crave, you know, and that's what keeps them coming back and keeps them feeling like, you know, it's one thing to go and do a race, but it's another thing to go and do a race with all of your friends where you feel like, I can't wait till the next time I get to do that again.
We have a group of women who drive in from Saskatchewan every year to do our events, and they come with all their friends and they plan. It's just it's pretty special. So yeah, no, I agree what you're saying. And I mean, I think there was an article just after COVID, and they were talking about like, how do you bob and weave and how do you change? Because things have changed. Yeah. And you either have to, you know, be really flexible and creative and think outside of the box, get on the skinny branches, all of that stuff to be able to survive. And they had said like, people are not going to be spending money on that because they don't have it, especially right after COVID. People didn't have like this incredible amount of income to just throw away. There's no expense accounts anymore. Yeah. You know, all of those things that were back in the 90s and the early 2000s. So you have to be, and they were saying like 80%, this is where people are going to be spending it on experiences. So, and I've really noticed, like her and I, typically we travel a lot to races. We go all over the world. We've gone to Germany, we've gone to Hawaii, we go to California. We've done races in Mexico, Italy, like wherever it is, because it really is our school. This is where we learn the most.
We go back. That's how we put I remember our very first race was the Wild Rose Women's Triathlon. And we were in California and we were walking down away from this golf. A lot of races are at golf courses. I don't know. It's just, it's often like it's a private land. There's like some body of water. There's trails. And so we were walking out and she said to me, okay, if you were to put on a triathlon, what elements would you do? And we were like, okay, we literally named off all the things that we loved from about 10 different races. You know, what we loved this from this race and this and this and this. And that's how when we put on the Wild Rose Women's Triathlon for the very first time, we took a lot of those elements and put them on. And she's always been, when triathlon really took off, I think it was enough, and even running, it was enough to just put up an arch. And running, we've really noticed this, is people were just happy to have, you know, a race course, start, finish line, great. And now that's not enough. It needs to be an experience. And that's how, you know, it's really Rose driving. I'm like the doer, and I will just like, I have my head down.
We're going to disagree here.
I have my head down.
Third fight in 19 years.
I have my head down, and I'm like, okay, I'm like the logistics queen.
No,
like, okay, check.
She's the execution.
Where she's the vision, and she comes up with all these cool ideas that I'm like, oh, I never would have thought of. This is what we need each other. And I never would have thought of. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, we could do that. Like, and so I think that's why we're in our growth phase right now, is because we take, you know, these ideas and making not just a race, but a true experience that people are craving to come back to year after year. And we want those year after year people to come back. So, oh, I can't miss that. I'll like, you know, signups, race registrations open, you know, the very next day, and people are already signing up is our goal.
Okay, so I'll interject here. That was lovely, but yeah, no, I mean, she doesn't, I mean, Richelle is the race director. She's in front. She's the front lines. It's like when you have a restaurant and you've got all the people behind the scenes doing all the stuff, and then this person comes out and, no, she loves doing this. Like she loves it. And I'm not saying that I don't love it, but we don't need two Richelles. We just don't. And partnerships are really challenging. And we've been very, very fortunate in 19 years. It hasn't been all smooth sailing because, you know, life, you have marriages or divorces and kids and sicknesses and financial challenges and all those things. And when you work so closely together, it's hard not to have that become part of it. But ultimately, we share the same values. We have the utmost respect for each other, and we make each other rise to the occasion. Like, that's really our big thing. Like, I would never let her down. There's days where I'm like, I'm ready to retire. I can't. Richelle would never leave me. I would not leave her. So
no, she'll joke about it. I'm like, no, like, you're never leaving. Like, good luck with that.
I go, what is the 5-year? What's the exit strategy for me? Not for you, but for me.
Totally.
No, but I think you need both types. I joke that she's back in university, I can't remember what course it was, but I was like, you always have to have a bus driver. So I refer to her as the bus driver constantly. She's you need a visionary in every business. And she's the visionary, and that we need that role, because without that, I know we wouldn't be as successful.
Yeah.
I just don't have those ideas. I've adopted more now, and I understand her vision more. So I'll go, what do you think of that? Like, I'm getting better at, like, okay, I know that this is what you would be kind of along the lines of thinking, but she always even seems to make it better.
What was that quote? That famous quote is like, a man with a vision is useless without execution. Pretty much that's what this is. This is the partnership,
we
right?
We need both. We can't do it. My mom always jokes. Like, she literally says, you'd be screwed with a rose.
Well, successful partnerships, they need that, right? You need that yin and yang, or whatever you want to call it, that synergistic kind of energy that one fulfills and then the other person does the other, and it just fits so well together.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we were talking off camera a little bit about how many partnerships fail, unfortunately, and that's just a reality. But what do you think, you mentioned 19 years, that's incredible, congratulations.
Way longer than most marriages.
Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah. But it kind of...
my marriage.
I'm still going.
it kind of is like a marriage, though. It really is, right?
100%. I tell people it's...
Yeah, I trust her explicitly, and I think that's really what it comes down to. I really do trust her.
And I have respect. Yeah, trust, respect, and she's my best friend. And, knowing that we can have hard conversations, and it's not always easy, and she reminds me we need to have those hard conversations, and that we need to talk things out, and that that the ups and downs are a natural part of it, and it's okay. Like, I think a lot of people fear the shitty stuff. We are having a shitty time, something's wrong. Like, that's okay. That's part of it. That's not where you stop and walk away. You push through it, because guess what? That when you push through it, something really incredible is on the other side. And we've seen that time and time and time again. And for every challenge we have together, let's say we have a disagreement, because, we'd be lying if we said we didn't have disagreements. But I think when we push past that, our relationship deepens, because we've been through that, we've had that hard conversation, or we've had that, and try to remember to go out for coffee and go for runs together, and to do those fun things together as well. And so that it's not always that we're just talking about work, we can have those other fun times together as well.
And I'm always talking her into some weird event of some sort. I'm like, you know what? It's 2025. What can we do? What's an adventure? We have a bucket list every year that we go do something together away from it all. Yeah. It's still a learning experience and all those things.
Well, knowing each other inside and out, I think, the better you know each other outside of work, the better you can handle each other, and handle's the wrong word.
And she can read me better. She knows what I'm thinking often, or she knows, I know that look, or I know this, or
If you were to give advice to young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that are considering a partner, and they hear all these horror stories, what are some of the strategies maybe that you've implemented for your relationship over the years?
It's been an evolution for sure, big learning curve. I think triathlon grew so fast when we first got it. It was the fastest growing sport in North America, and we saw tremendous success right away. And then the floods happened, and then the recession happened, and then the other recession happened, and then a pandemic happened. So we've been able to ride through all those. I think there's a couple things that they need to look for. For one, number one, same values. You have to have the same vision. If you don't have the same dream, and that changes and evolves, and you have to be open to have that conversation. But for us, the one thing we've talked about 19 years that comes back again, we will not quit. There is no way. There's too much that we see that we have, so much to learn, so much untapped. And there's no ego involved with us in the sense that she shines brighter or she has more success. It's a reflection on both of us. And I think, it's time. We're different. We're a little bit different in age. And so that's something that I think she's in a different space. I have grandchildren. She has a 12-year-old, so, I mean, that's really useful as well as women. But honestly, if the advice would be probably be very, 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 very clear, very, very, very clear, and get everything in writing. We did not, thank God it worked out, but I would recommend get everything in writing, what exactly you want, what you don't want, and be truthful, because I think people go in, like relationships, right? What is that called? Bait and switch?
Bait and switch.
Yeah, when they come in and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. And inside they're going,
this.
oh my God, I don't want to do this. This is crazy. You want us to work 14 hours a day for the next 5 years and make almost no money or whatever. Yeah. And you're agreeing to something that fundamentally, you can't afford, or you're not willing to do, or it's going to sacrifice your marriage or whatever. Be really, really clear.
And I think a lot of it comes down to ego, where Rose says, like, who shines brighter or what have you, or, not thinking anything's beneath you. Like, well, we're hauling garbages with leaking juice all over at events and things like that. And I think, a lot of people will get into it and like, well, I'm not doing that, or we're willing to do whatever it takes. To go to the end, to go again and go. I talk about it again, going through that crappy stuff. As a lot of people, it's easy. It's so easy to quit, and it's so much harder to push through and figure things out, and again to have those hard conversations. But I think that's where the growth has happened. And we do see it a lot, like, oh, we had a fight. So like, that's it, you had a fight and your partnership ended? Like, what? Like, okay, we would have been dead in the water, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and recently, like, it's always just been Richelle and I, and recently we have brought on somebody else who has outside experience. Her name's Rita, and she loves to support women. She's really big into philanthropy. She's at a stage in her life right now where she feels she can offer to help grow this business, and she loves the vision of us growing across Canada. Not sure about going into the States. We've talked about that. We do have a couple races that are currently going to be going in there, but really focusing on the growth in Canada right now. And I'd be cool to go to Europe or something like that with the Wild Rose races. Would be super cool. But we have a big, big vision, and she kind of supports that and looks at that and goes, yeah, man, I think this is a possibility. And so where can she fit? So she doesn't do a lot of operational in the sense, but she's, good at sourcing out grants. She's got a whole different skill set. And that's the other thing.
That was something we really looked for, was someone with a completely different skill set and also different personality, where Rose and I, the one thing that we both have is the like, yep, let's go, let's do this, let's go. Like, we see something and we're like, we should put on this event. And a week later, it's like, she'll be like, we should do this. And I'm like, okay, website's up, registration's up. Oh my God. She's like, okay. Whereas Rita's like, okay, so that's cool, but like, what about, did you think about this? And did you think about that? And so it's a little more, although Rose and I are never afraid. Another trait that we share is that a lot of people, I think, are fearful of things. And the one thing we've truly learned is we can go down a path, and if it works out, great. But if it doesn't work out, it's okay to come back and change, or either come back and, okay, go back to the drawing board, or take a turn. And so many people, I think, have that fear of even just starting. And I can think of several people I know who they get these ideas and they're too afraid to start, because what if I fail? I don't think we have that that gene.
No,
like we're like,
I
let's
think
do
there's
it, let's
some
try it, let's go.
Naivety or something that we just failing is just not an option, right? So I agree with what Richelle is saying. And again, you know, when we talked about bringing on another friend who is just, again, like Rita, is just amazing and different. Her and I have definitely, if you're going into a partnership, be really honest about what your strengths are and what you're willing to learn and what you're willing not to learn. And if you're not comfortable being in sales and you're not comfortable doing bookkeeping, or you're not comfortable, you know, being in the front, or you know, working long hours, or whatever your venture is. Like, I'm trying to even think with restaurant, because I had a partner in restaurant and he was amazing, but he also, that was like his side hustle. He was more the finance guy. And just being really, really clear about what you're willing to do.
I'm learning new things, and that goes back to ego. Like, we are constantly admitting, like,
we don't know anything.
No.
Knowing that you don't know anything, you know, that's...
We do. And I feel like the older I get, the less I know.
Much.
You don't know, you don't know.
Well, things are changing so much.
Yeah,
Like,
constantly.
I think of myself at my age now with like social media and even like I do the bookkeeping and the QuickBooks, and now it's online and it's like ever changing, and it's, you know, I don't have a degree in bookkeeping, but I wear 14 different hats.
And I'm so glad she handles that side of, you know, and where I handle a different side of the business than that I have to learn, and we're both constantly pushing ourselves to learn. And so many people, or if she comes to me and says like, you know, what about this? And it's a brilliant idea. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay.
I'd love to, but when kind of thing?
Yeah. Pause in the phone.
Figure that out.
Pause. And I'm like, oh, oh, shoot, I should have been more like slid that in somewhere.
But I'll come back 3 days later. I'm like, after I have my initial, like, oh God. And I'll be like, okay, I figured it out, or I figured out how we can implement this or do this. And I think, you know, we've even had staff where, you know, we'll try to pitch something and they're like, no, can't do it. Like, not at all. Like, can you look into it? Can you? And I think it's a rare skill. And I think it's something that's part of a lot of entrepreneurs, where they just will figure it out. No matter what. You just, you know, and sometimes it's late nights of just sitting with TV on, with the computer open, hey, and like, just, oh, nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. Okay. We had something the other day where I was like, just so you know, I totally messed up the website. It's good, working on it. And she's like, to have that trust for her, she's like, okay, it's not perfect right now. And we were actually, I think, here, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I just figured it out. Like, and we were not even talking about it. And I just had this epiphany where I'm like, okay, I got to go back to the computer. I figured out how to fix it. And then I fixed it. And for her to have that trust in me is everything to me. And knowing that, you know, she'd rather have me try things and fail and keep pushing forward than just not do it at all, right? And to have that is such a gift. And it goes back to that trust and that respect and knowing that we will never let each other down. She now knows enough, like, okay, so it's not perfect right now, but it will be.
The traits of an entrepreneur is something that we talk about a lot on this podcast, and it's one of the commonalities between, you know, every guest that we've discussed it with is that resilience to not give up and push through those hard times and figure it out, as you were talking about. Mm-hmm. It's so crucial, rather than kind of just throw in the towel and be like, nope, not doing it this way. I'm never going to change.
And she has it more than anyone I've ever known. And I do think there's the people like her who have it, and it was just, she's sort of, you can just tell she was born with it. And there's people like me who it was nurtured and sort of grown and I don't know how else, grown and pushed and taught. And
I just think that we don't know what we're capable of.
Yeah.
We just don't. And I don't think Richelle really knew what she was capable of until she just, you know, did it. And I mean, again, she's exceptional. I mean, if there's we've won awards for the best race directors before, and but I mean, honestly, she's always looking for a better way to dial it in, a better way, an easier way, a more inviting way. I think it's great. I feel very, very lucky.
Awesome. Sounds like a healthy partnership. I'm happy for you both.
There will be no fist fights here.
Yeah. Not on camera at least, right?
No, is that okay?
Yeah.
You'd be like, this would make great content. It would go viral.
You were talking about Rita, and I'm sure, and I know that you bring on other team members and that sort of thing for different events. That's so I'm always curious, when did you realize, or when did you kind of decide that it's a good time to bring on, a third party or a new staff member or anything like that? Because I feel like as entrepreneurs as well, we're constantly kind of just being like, oh, I can do it, add it to my plate, So for the two of you, when was kind of that moment where you're like, okay, we not only have the resources, but we're being spread too thin, this person has different skill sets, whatever that looks like. What did that look like for you?
It sounds like we probably should have gone out and seeked it, but we've had people come to us and say, listen, I think I can add value to this business. And in the past, again, very apprehensive. We know what partnerships look like and what they, but I think we have confidence in the fact that, we're very clear at the very beginning of what, just even by our example, not even like how we verbalize it, but this is what we're trying to build and this is where we're going, and we walk the walk. It's not just talking about it. And I think that really resonates, and especially with women who are looking to, they want to have an impact too. Right? They want to make a difference because they've been afforded, a really great life and luxuries that, a lot of people wouldn't have. And I'm not just talking about financial, I'm talking about physical, and, they've got healthy families and they've got opportunities and they've got experiences. And yeah, we recognize that we cannot do this alone.
No.
To get to the next level. Our races grew. What were our events last year on average?
Oh my God, I think they grew many of them, 30 to 50%, depending on what event. It was insane
in
last
attendance?
year. Yeah, it was insane. So.
And there's a lot of events out there.
Yeah.
Especially with triathletes, because they swim, they bike, they run, they do CrossFit, they do yoga, they do this. So the fact that we were able to connect, and they're like, and that takes time, right? They've done our races and they're like, wow, there's value in this. And oh my God, I had the best time at the Get Shit Done run and the women's race, and oh, your open water swim in Sylvan Lake. But especially in particular, the women's ones where they're just like, I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to show up. And yeah, we make mistakes. We're not perfect. And we've still got so much to learn. And we can always, we always go back the next day and talk about what are our successes? What do we want to celebrate? And then we look back and we go, okay, these things we could do better for sure.
We literally wake up the next day and while it's fresh in our brains, we write a list, and we separate it into package pickup, pre-race communication, set up on site, what happened with the race course, what happened post-race, and we go through these categories. The food, there's a food category, and we talk about, we write the list for next year. So I was just working on an event, and it was what about the food? And it was so cool to go to the list and be like, oh yeah, I'd forgot about all those things. And so I think that's something that, we've done over the years. And it can be hard because you're basically, sometimes she talks about that we're too hard on ourselves, but, where we're like, okay, let's just really pick this apart of everything that we want to make better. But that's how we strive every time to get better and better and better and work harder. And I think sometimes when it goes back to other partnerships or staff, people see the fun side of Rose and Richelle, and they see, because we are happy. We love what we do, and we feel so blessed to do what we do. And I don't mean for that to sound corny, but we actually truly do. Look what we do. We're outside putting on events, hanging out with all these people, getting to we have a really cool job. But I think people see that, but they don't see the hours and hours of, sitting behind your computer and, clean when everyone goes home after the race and we're hauling tents and you driving U-Hauls and stuff like that. And some people, I don't mind that. I actually like that side of things, although I was terrified the first time I drove a U-Haul. But I think that side isn't necessarily fun. People want the action where people see them and they get to be the person giving out the medals or the person on the mic, and they don't see that other side of things. And a lot of people don't want that side of things. They want just the fun stuff, but that's Any entrepreneur knows that's not it. Or any success, they see the successful part. Oh, wow, their events are doing well. Yeah, but they didn't see the 30-person race that we put on, or we killed ourselves to put on this one event, and the pathways and this and this and this. And, we ended up paying $1,000 to put on a race instead of the other way. So we've had all of those. And so I think it can be hard for people. They want just the fun stuff. And we found that with the store too, is we would have staff that just want to come in and hang out. And we're like, well, that's cool. But there's also like, you need to fold clothes and do inventory and mop the floors. And they're like, oh, but I just wanted to like hang out and talk to people. Well, that's not how it works. So you have to have all of it.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I think that realistic like outlook on what it actually looks like to put on events. Yes, it's a fun event. Yes, it's a great industry. We experience it on our side too, young people holding a camera and they just love taking photos. And then they come and do it for a job, and it's like, it's a job,
I'm just telling you that if you think it, like the setup for these guys to put on this is like amazing, like amazing.
Yeah.
This was not, they just showed up.
Yeah, it's important though. I think that just being realistic with what it actually looks like.
Yeah, and the good comes with, and again, it's not the bad. It's like, it's just the hard work. The fun times do require, no different than running a marathon. You can't just go run a marathon and celebrate I ran a marathon. There is weeks and weeks and weeks of the hard stuff, the runs in the rain and the snow, and when you're tired and when your knee hurts and you're doing all of that. So there's that side of things with the really amazing, one day. And I think the people that do well at it are the people that embrace that side of things. And, we feel fortunate. We know the really good because we've known and again, it's not bad, but it's the hard work side of things. So.
I will reflect on we call each other after every single race, after everything's been torn down, and she'll be driving home. And this is a poignant moment for a business owner. And she called me and she's like, I have been driving and it's an hour and a half after the race and I'm sitting in my driveway and I don't have one complaint email yet. What is going on? So, and that was a big win for us, kind of, because we'd even get like, it was so cold. Well, I'm sorry.
Wish I could control the weather for you.
There's all those
things.
The
biggest one that I think that it actually made me cry was our very first race or maybe our second one. And this woman just emailed me about how the medal wasn't big enough and I've ruined her whole experience it was her first track. Yeah, right. I know, your eyes say it all. And I thought so, and it was just like, she's like, I've been training for months and this is it. But I think, Rose has always done a gratitude practice. I did not. I've recently, in the past few years, adopted a gratitude practice, and now I can handle those comments because I'm like, that person clearly doesn't have a gratitude practice. That if the size of the medal isn't big enough in her world, she's got a whole lot going on. We're just so grateful for every experience we get, every person we meet, everything we get to do, how truly blessed our lives are, and we are so lucky, And so I think that sometimes I feel sorry for that person. They've got a lot of other things going in their lives.
Yeah,
that the size of the medal isn't big enough, that we've ruined her entire experience. Mm-hmm. So we don't get those often. We joke about them, but I think it's because we take it so personally, and Rose is constantly, reminding me that I can't take it. And we had a sign up in the store that said, we can't please every person, but we try. And I think that is how we are. And so we do take it so personally if someone isn't happy, because we go out of our way to make sure everybody's happy, to make sure everybody has the best experience. And, sometimes we'll talk to other race directors, and whether they're from here or elsewhere, and they're like, well, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, I can't just say that. Like, we can't just say that. Like, to us, it's like, so then the next year I'm like, bigger medal.
Yeah, that is kind of sad that projection comes on you, but it also is a testament to how closely you're listening to the people that attend.
Yes.
And ultimately, that is the most important thing, because you can't improve an experience if you're not, ear on the ground. So
yeah, and constantly trying to improve and constantly trying to, and from the operations side, I'm constantly trying to improve. And from the experience side, she's constantly trying to, what if we did this with registration? Is there a way we can make this easier? Can we get results to them faster? Can we, that's her side of things. And so, yeah.
Love it. What does success look like for you?
Gosh, for me, really, it's, I have 2 granddaughters and a daughter, and I know what a profound effect it had on her and my boys as well. And it's definitely shaped her. And so when I look at my granddaughters, who are now 2 and 4, I think to myself, I hope that they get these opportunities as they go forward, because there's been a shift for sure. There's been lots of good, but we're definitely, we've seen a shift going back. And so I'm hoping that as we continue to grow this, that every single girl, every single woman, if this is something they want to do, they can. Whether it's financial limitations, physical limitations, they've overcome whatever it is, or they feel like they don't have a community, or they don't feel like they have support. I want to be able to look back on that as for me, this is my legacy. I really believe that, I've had a lot of business ventures over the past, however old I am in my years. And this one, and I love all our other events. I love them, all of our races, and they're just so cool. But when we do we're doing a yoga retreat tomorrow, and that's sold out, and all those women that come, that impact is that, are they going to be able to carry that forward into the rest of their lives, right? Because if that mom's daughter and sister and her friend and everybody sees her accomplishing these kinds of goals and setting her mind, we can be unstoppable as individuals collectively. And men are we talk a lot about the women. The men are integral. My husband is an integral part has been from the very beginning, supported us financially, emotionally. He comes to every race. He loads the trucks, he unloads the trucks. He's the guy to give anybody a hug who needs the help. We would not be here without him, for sure. And he loves Richelle. She is his sister. He has so much admiration and respect for her. And so if we can have, how many women are in Canada?
I don't know.
I would assume it's 50%.
Yeah.
So probably 18 million?
Okay, so if we could get let's go big. 15 million of these women participating in one of our events across Canada, and saying to them and having that trickle effect onto every other woman and their husbands and their sons, and then we've done a good job. So it's a small dream, but it's there.
Yeah. And success for me, I think I'm living it right now. This was always I always knew I didn't want a true desk job, a 9 to 5. I always knew that 9 to 5 where I was in an office, and I think getting to put on these, I live for event day. It's when event day, it does take a lot out of you, but I also feel I get this, it's like someone's plugged me in, and I get more and more energy from people.
Don't talk to her in December though.
Yeah.
She's burnt out.
I'm just by then I'm okay, I need her. But I think, getting to live, and so many people I think put the emphasis, and Rose and I talk about this a lot, on financial success. That's success. I've made this much money, or I've done this. But getting to live your dream, we've got to travel, we've got to, go places, meet people, see people, again, give to others, see others accomplish their goals, and shape our lives to how we want to live them. So for me, I am successful right now.
Love it. Yeah, awesome. What can the average person do to kind of propel that vision forward? Obviously you're doing great work. and affecting the community in a huge way. But is there any work that, like, you know, the average listener or the, you know, can anybody support what you're doing in any indirect ways?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking to have, again, if you have a skill that you want, like sometimes we'll have people who are just learning to do photography and they want to come in and take pictures, and we're always welcoming to them. A lot of the times we have like a festival at our events, and you're a small business. One example would be like Bonus Soapworks. We've had many of them. We don't charge them for tents. Come in, sell, grow your business, because honestly, it's not as much fun going on this ride. It's great when you bring other people along, you know, and your community. So I would say find out, reach out to people. I'm finding it hard that people, I don't know if it's the time of year, but people don't get back to you as quickly as they used to. Are you finding that, you guys?
We were talking about that off camera before.
Yeah, and it's a bit frustrating because I follow through and I answer right away because I don't like that feeling. Yeah. It could be 2 a.m. and if I hear the bing, I know it sounds crazy. And not everybody has to be like that, but I don't like to carry that and make other people feel that way. So I think, I'm sure you and I agree on the same thing as far as like, finding your people in your community and going in and volunteering and giving your services with us. Just reach out. We are always looking for people. We probably have 100 women and men that come to our events that give value in different ways, whether they have a drone and they want to do something there, or they're a massage therapist or a chiropractor and they're like, hey, I want to be entrenched, and in return drive business to them, and you know, and go places where you feel like you can learn, because that's really what it's all about, continuing to learn.
Yeah. And even just sharing, you know, that these events are there. It might not be for you, or you might, you know, have joined us for the, you know, the Get Shit Done run, and you see that we're doing an upcoming swim, and then you're like, oh, my neighbor, I know she swims every morning. Hey, have you heard about this event? And sharing those things, because we can guarantee, and this isn't like a cocky thing, but we can guarantee they're going to have a good time. And only because we know how hard we work to make sure that that does happen. And that's how our brand is growing, is that, you know, making sure that we are putting on these good, high quality events. And right now it's just, you know, making sure that people know about them. And, you know, that can be anyone just sharing them.
Yeah, and if you know somebody who's in a different province and you're like, wow, we really could have somebody out here doing a race for us, and that's a race director. And right now we're working with a bunch of different ones. That it's been a real slow thing for us as far as the growth goes, because we want to make sure that we have a really well dialed in machine that can go to these places. And yeah, it's different in Saskatchewan versus Winnipeg versus BC versus Alberta versus Edmonton versus Calgary. But just we want to make sure that if we ask somebody to come and grow with us and build this brand together, then we want to make sure that we're going to give them something that they're like really confident and feel good about, and it has all the tools that they can continue to grow with, right? It's not like, would you like to put on a Wild Rose event? Well, we don't, you know, Richelle has it all dialed in as far as how to contact the cities and the parks, and what's the best place to look for when you're looking for a venue, and parking, and what to anticipate and what to expect, and what your return's going to be and where your growth is going to be. All of those things are super important.
And that's, I think, our goal too, is because we had to learn it all, and it can be really scary and really, like, I remember writing my first permit, like how terrified I was. And I was like, oh my God, how do these people do that? How did they even figure it out? And I think it's now our responsibility, and I have that vision of working more with women who are like, this would be really cool, but I have no idea how to go about it. It goes back to that, like, going down that road. I'm too scared to even start because I don't know how to go down that road, is to help them and lead them down that road so that they can be successful.
Yeah, totally. You've built that framework, and now it's time to give it back.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. What's coming down the pipeline? What's next for the two of you?
We're heading into summer. This is where we're really starting to prep. We are looking to not only continue the events we currently have, but grow the series and find other cities. And I think other staff, we're at like sort of our max in terms of the events, but we want to continue to grow this series and find other passionate people to come on board with us and grow this series with us, who want to have a lot of fun, know it's hard work, but have some fun.
Yeah, our season gets real busy real quick. Like whenever there's times where I'll go to Richelle, hey, would this be a cool idea? She's like, we cannot take on another event
at this time.
Yes, but so we have something in Vancouver right now that is going to be this year for the Wild Rose. Almost finished finalizing Kelowna, Edmonton. We have something going on, a women's race in Houston. So yeah, it's hasn't been as strategic as we like. It's been basically people who are excited to put on an event, and they see that there's room for this in that space. But yeah, on top of all of our Wild Rose women's events, we've kind of set like a pretty high bar where registration goes. We know that we have to put in place certain people, like we need to have somebody who's more into marketing and content, because, as amazing as we are, there is a skill set needed for content creation and graphic design and all of those things. But to find the right person that fits into this has definitely been challenging. So that is a really big goal of ours. To grow our race in Drumheller is just doing amazing. Our women's Grand Fondo bike race, like this is one of a kind.
We're the only women's only Grand Fondo in Canada. And we didn't know that till a customer pointed that out last year. Or maybe we just didn't think of it, because we started it to try to get, I love riding bikes, and for people like us, we just don't, maybe it's that lack of fear. We'll just go sign up for something like that. And a lot of people have mentioned to us, like, oh, I would be too intimidated. And it's because of some of the men, and, not all men are like that. But so we just started this so that we're like, oh, well, maybe if you tried a women's only, you would gain the confidence to then go do this. So that's why we started it. We didn't start it to be the first women's only Grand Fondo. But it's kind of cool that we are, and we hope to grow that. And the vision is that we're getting people from all over Canada coming to Calgary to do this ride.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Doing it for the right reasons.
Oh yeah, and it's like, if you aren't that person that's intimidated and you aren't nervous, this is your opportunity to help somebody else, right? Yeah. So Richelle's really great at partnering up, like somebody who does 100K rides all the time, and then there's we had a woman last year who was in her 70s and had never done an event ever, like not a bike, just never done an event, and came out and did a 35K. Yeah. And so we, you partner them up with people like that. And we're really lucky to know so many amazing women in this community that are just like, they want to share their experience. Oh, I've done Ironman, I've done ultras, I've done, and I'm continuing to do that. And they just want to go back and share that with everyone.
My friend Alyssa came to the Grand Fondo last year, and this woman came up to me after, and she goes, your friend Alyssa just taught me how to ride in a pack. And I was like, what, Alyssa, what? Like, what's going on? I was like, that's amazing. I didn't ask her to do it. She just did it because she saw this group. They were kind of riding together, but they were riding apart. And she kind of said, let's group up. And they had never done this. So then she just had this impromptu lesson on the course of teaching these women how to ride in a pack. And I think that's the gift, is that we know so many women like that who want to help and grow the sport and grow the community. Mm-hmm. So,
well, it's such a testament to what you're doing, which is just the community. You nailed it there.
It goes back to that, I think, always the community.
And in a lot of ways, for a long time, I was upset that I didn't have the support from the community as far as a mom who wanted to get into endurance sports and stuff. And now I look at it as a gift, because would I have gone this path had I had all of that, right? And where I was like, I don't ever want anyone to feel like this, that they're not welcome in there. Because I remember watching my first Ironman on TV and being like, oh my God, how cool would that be? And it was the way the cinematography and everything, and the way they present it is just like, how can you not get sucked
Makes
into
you want
this,
to,
right?
Sign me up.
Yeah, where? And so, and then, and had I seen, I don't know, I didn't know anyone who had done it and been in that. So it was a big deal for me to be able to. So I'm grateful that they weren't, there, and so that I could, say to myself, like, I want other people not to feel this way, and you're the same way. I mean, it has made us who we are today.
Yeah, whether as an athlete or as, an event director, like I alluded to, I don't want people, it's been hard. Like, it's not like that it's been so hard. Can be hard and scary. Like, like I said, I never forget writing that first permit. It was terrifying. Like, am I doing this right? We don't want anyone to, because that can be a huge barrier for people. We want to eliminate those barriers and pave the way to make these more accessible.
I really love what you do. How many times you must see this, you guys, that these guys are like, you got to be passionate about what it is you're doing. You can't, if someone came to me and asked me to run a boxing gym or whatever, it would be completely like, I just wouldn't have, I wouldn't have had, and the same success and the same 100%. Commitment, right?
Well, it comes across in the work that you do, right? Like, you can really tell when somebody or a company or the team or whatever the case is passionate about what they do, because it comes across in the work. Yeah, you can tell.
We love it.
Do you remember that video that was out for a while? It was called The Secret.
Oh yeah.
And it was like everybody had it. It was like, oh my God, have you seen The Secret? Have you seen The Secret? And it had gone viral, and it was all it really was like, really loving what you do and making sure that you're dedicated to it. It was brilliantly marketed and all of those things, and it kind of felt like that to me. It felt like when I started doing endurance sports and then opened up the store, and then started putting on the events. It's always been like, you guys, if you only knew how amazing this felt. Like, it's like the people who quit smoking or drinking, and then all of a sudden you're just like, wow, I feel amazing. Why didn't I stop this sooner or whatever? It's the same thing I find with these events and stuff. Like, Richelle, why didn't we start putting on women's races like from the go? Why, that kind of thing.
Because we had no clue.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. I had no idea where to start.
You don't know what you don't know, what we talked full circle, right?
Oh my God. Or we put on events, I'll never forget, years ago, we put on like a run event, and full disclosure, I had no idea how to book the pathway. We're like, all these other events just go on, so we put, it was like a 50-person event. But again, it's all that learning.
Like, you're not allowed to do that without getting a permit. What?
Yeah. What's a permit?
We own a store. We can't just do this. So there's lots of learning. It's embarrassing to admit to some of those things. But
That's how you learn. That's how you grow, right? You got to make those mistakes. And awesome.
Yeah.
Where can we send people to follow along?
Oh my gosh, there's a number of places.
There is.
We have socials and websites, Tri It Multisport, our Premier Events, and Wild Rose Women's Events, and we can give you those links to share with everybody on the socials and the websites.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll drop them all on screen. Awesome.
Yeah, so you coming to do one of our events?
I would love to. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Because you're now new to running.
Yeah.
So April, what is Get Shit Done?
April 27th is Get Shit Done, so you've got a couple weeks.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. I think that's right before the Vancouver.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh, are you doing Vancouver?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was my first marathon.
Perfect. Really? Yeah.
98.
I'm just doing a half, but yeah.
Don't say just.
That's another thing we always say to people. Don't say just.
Yeah.
Everybody's invited. Only a few of us choose to show up.
Right.
Right, and so you're going that. Congratulations
on
taking that.
Yeah, it'll be good.
It's a great race.
Awesome.
I think it's 75% of the time it rains.
Great, can't wait.
Yeah, no.
Awesome.
I did it in 98, and it was, I remember just thinking, wow, how is this possible that I could do this?
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
I'm excited for you. If you need any recommendations on some cool runs, we both have done many, many races.
I will 100% be hitting you up.
The Calgary Marathon is amazing.
That's later in the year, right? Like September or something?
No, May.
It's May.
End of May.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually how we started the Get Shit Done run, was to let people sort of prep for the, to do their last long run supported before the Calgary Marathon, which is kind of a month later. So getting that run in where it's with other people, and
we did the 50K together there. We did the 50K off the couch. It was not our finest moment. But we made it.
There's the Mother's Day run, which is pretty big here too, right?
Yeah,
I've done that with my mom a couple of years.
Oh, that's so nice.
My
My kids have all run with me since they were little.
Love it.
And they're still running. So except for my oldest, but he's a really good cheerleader.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Richelle and Rose. This has been incredible. I really appreciate your time
for
today.
having us on. This has been great. It's so grateful.
I'm just
to
so
share our
glad we got
story.
another person into running.
Yeah.
Our work is done. That's all we need to do now.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Yeah.
We're not leaving here without you signing on the dotted line. We'll give you a code to get in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.